After my husband's funeral, I went to my sister's son's first birthday party just to feel normal again. I was still grieving, still wearing my wedding ring, still waking up expecting him to walk through the door, but in the middle of the celebration, right when everyone gathered around the cake, my sister suddenly tapped her glass and said, "I have an announcement. My son is actually Daniel's child, your husband's child, so I deserve half of your $900,000 house." She even held up a fake will, waving it around like she was proud of herself. People gasped, some stared at me with pity, others with shock. And my sister? She looked like she had just won something, but what she didn't know, what she couldn't possibly imagine, was the one secret that would destroy her entire lie in seconds. Stay with me, because what happened next turned the whole room upside down. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me where you are watching from. And please hit subscribe for more stories where the good guys always win. My name is Emily Warren. I'm 35 years old, and only 3 weeks ago I buried my husband Daniel. His death was sudden and cruel, the kind that steals someone in the middle of a normal day. One morning he just didn't wake up, and my entire world changed. After the funeral, the house felt painfully empty. His jacket was still hanging by the door, his toothbrush still standing next to mine, and every night I slept on the edge of the bed, still leaving space for him like he would walk back into the room. So when my sister Claire invited me to her son's first birthday party, I agreed because I desperately needed something different. Noise, people, anything to escape the silence in my home. The community hall was bright and colorful, filled with balloons, music, and little kids running around with frosting on their faces. Parents chatted, laughed, and took pictures, but I felt like I was watching everything from behind a window. I sat quietly in the back, trying to smile politely when someone told me they were sorry for my loss. Then Claire walked in 20 minutes late, wearing a glittery gold dress like she was attending a fashion show, not a child's birthday. She carried her son Jacob like she wanted everyone to admire her. Claire had always loved attention. Growing up, she made everything about herself, but I never imagined she would drag my grief into her drama. When the cake arrived and people gathered to sing, she suddenly tapped her spoon against a glass. The room fell silent at once. Even the clown stopped moving. Claire stood there like she was on stage and announced, "Before we cut the cake, I have something very important to say." Her eyes locked on me, and something inside me tightened. Then, with a proud smile, she said, "Emily, my son is actually Daniel's child, your husband's child, so I deserve half of your $900,000 house." The room exploded with gasps and whispers. A mother near me covered her mouth, someone dropped their cup, and every pair of eyes turned toward me. Claire lifted a folded paper in her hand and waved it like proof, claiming it was Daniel's will. My heart didn't break, it went completely numb. I stared at her, trying to understand how my own sister could twist the knife like this, especially now, especially when I was still trying to breathe after losing Daniel. Claire stood there waiting, enjoying the attention like she had rehearsed the moment, but she had no idea what she was doing. She had no idea that the one secret Daniel never told her, the one truth she never even imagined, was about to destroy her entire story. And as the room held its breath, waiting for my reaction, I knew something very big was about to happen. For a long moment after Claire's announcement, no one in the room even breathed. I stood there frozen, staring at her as her words echoed again and again in my mind. My husband, my dead husband, accused of having a secret child at a baby's birthday party by my own sister. Claire was smiling like she had just revealed the greatest twist in a movie, enjoying the attention as people around us whispered and stared. I heard a mother near the cake whisper loudly, "Did Daniel cheat?" I always thought something was strange. Someone else murmured, "She must be heartbroken." Even the clown in the corner stood completely still, holding half a balloon animal. Claire stepped toward me slowly, her heels clicking sharply on the floor, the fake will held out in her hand like she expected me to take it and sign my life away. "It's simple," she said in a sweet voice that didn't match the poison underneath. "Jacob is Daniel's son, and since Daniel left everything to you, naturally half of it belongs to my baby. So you can either give me my share willingly, or we go to." Her voice was calm, confident, rehearsed. She had planned every word. I looked at her, feeling sadness mixed with disbelief. "Claire," I asked softly, "why would you do this? Why now? Why like this?" Her smile dropped for a moment, then returned sharper than before. "Because I deserve something too," she whispered so only I could hear. "You got the husband, the house, the money, the good life. It's my turn." That was the moment I realized she wasn't my sister, not right now. She was someone angry at the world, and I was the closest target she could reach. She turned back to the crowd and lifted the fake document again, raising her voice. "This will proves Jacob's inheritance. You all heard it. Daniel is his father." Some people nodded, some looked shocked, and others just watched me, waiting for me to break. Instead, I took a slow breath and said the sentence that cracked the entire room open like lightning. Daniel had a vasectomy 8 years ago. He physically couldn't have children. The room went silent in an instant. The music, the whispers, even the birthday candles seemed to freeze. Claire's face turned white, as if every drop of blood drained from her body. "That's not true," she stammered. "You're lying. You're trying to embarrass me." I didn't argue. I simply pulled out my phone, opened Daniel's medical folder, the one he always kept perfectly organized, and tapped the scanned, notarized vasectomy document. I turned the screen toward the crowd. His doctor's signature, the date, the confirmation, it was all there. People leaned in, gasping. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." She really lied. Another said, she used her baby to scam her own sister. Claire stumbled back a step, then another, her hand shaking so badly that the fake will fell out of her fingers and drifted to the floor. I bent down, picked it up and looked at it closely. "This isn't Daniel's handwriting," I said quietly. But everyone could hear me. "And the lawyer you wrote here retired 3 years ago." A father holding his toddler muttered, "So she forged a will? At a kid's birthday party?" Murmurs spread through the hall as Claire shook her head, whispering no, 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 like repeating the word would change anything. Then the worst moment happened. Her own baby, little Jacob, began crying loudly from the tension. Instead of comforting him, Claire snapped and shouted, "Stop screaming, just stop!" People stepped back, horrified. Parents covered their children's ears. I walked over gently, lifted Jacob into my arms and rocked him softly. His tiny hands clung to my shirt, and it broke my heart that he was caught in this mess. I looked at Claire and said quietly but clearly, "This child deserves love, not lies, not schemes, and definitely not being used for money." Claire's face twisted with anger, shame, and panic all at once, and she jerked like she wanted to lunge at me, but 2 mothers grabbed her arms gently to hold her back. For the first time in her life, Claire didn't have an audience supporting her. She had witnesses, and her entire lie had just shattered in front of them. Claire looked like a trapped animal, her eyes darting around the room, searching desperately for even one person who still believed her. But all she saw were folded arms, disappointed faces, and phones slowly rising as people began recording her downfall. She suddenly grabbed the crumpled will from the floor and held it up again, her voice cracking as she screamed, "This is real! Daniel wanted me to have part of the house. He told me. He said Jacob was his." It was painful to watch, like seeing a ship sink in slow motion, but I stayed calm. I stepped closer and said softly, "Claire, give me the paper." She clutched it to her chest like a child refusing a toy and snapped, "No, yo! Or just jealous he loved me too." A loud gasp rippled through the room. Even the kids stopped running and stared. I reached out gently and she didn't fight me. Her hands were shaking too much. When I unfolded the paper, the first thing I noticed was almost ridiculous. Daniel's name was spelled as Daniel Warren. My husband had one of the simplest names in the world, and somehow she couldn't even get that right. Then I read the date and felt disbelief wash over me. The document was supposedly signed during the exact week Daniel was in the hospital, hooked to machines, barely able to speak, watched by nurses every minute. There was no way he met a lawyer, signed a will, and secretly left half our house to my sister. I held the paper up so everyone could see it and said calmly, "His name is spelled wrong. This law firm doesn't exist, and this stamp is from an online website that sells fake documents." Someone near the front actually snorted from holding in laughter. Claire's face twisted, and she shouted, "That doesn't mean anything. He said the lawyer was new. He rushed it. I looked at her gently and said, Claire, the signature is copy and paste. You can see the pixels. The room erupted into whispers. A father holding his toddler muttered, She didn't even try to make it look real. A woman whispered loudly, She used her own baby for this? Phones were now fully recording, and Claire spun around screaming, Stop recording! Stop! But people backed away, refusing to get close to her. At that moment, her boyfriend Mark walked back into the hall holding their baby Jacob. His face was pale, embarrassed, and furious. Claire? He asked quietly. Is any of this true? She rushed toward him, reaching for Jacob. Of course it's true. Emily is lying. She wants everything for herself. Mark stepped back, protecting the baby. His voice was low but steady as he said, You too. Me, Jacob's father was a guy from Austin you dated before me. Claire blinked rapidly. I only said that because, Mark cut her off. You also told your mother he was someone from your office. She froze. Everyone watched in complete silence as her lies unraveled right in front of them. Mark continued, And you told me Jacob was premature, but he wasn't. So, who is his father, Claire? She opened her mouth but nothing came out. Mark shook his head. I'm not doing this. Not at my son's birthday party. Then he gently handed Jacob to me, because I was the only calm person in the room, and walked to the door. Claire screamed after him, Don't you walk away from me, Mark. I did this for us. We need the money. I thought Emily would help, but he didn't turn back. The door slammed behind him. Jacob cried softly in my arms, confused and scared, and I rocked him until he calmed down. Claire looked around the room, hoping someone, anyone, would support her. But everyone stepped back. Even her closest friends and co-workers refused to stand beside someone who forged a will, lied about her child's father, and tried to steal from her grieving sister. The room that had been full of celebration now felt cold and heavy. Bright balloons and cartoon banners looked strange next to Claire, who stood trembling, humiliated, and completely exposed. Her entire world was collapsing right in front of her. But I sensed she wasn't done. Claire always found a way to make things worse, and I knew she still had one more shockingly low move left. I barely slept that night. My phone buzzed non-stop with messages from people who had been at the birthday party. Apologies, shock, gossip, long paragraphs about how ashamed they were to witness Claire's behavior. But none of it mattered to me. I didn't want sympathy or explanations. I just wanted silence, peace, and a moment to breathe after the stow. Claire had thrown into my life. Early the next morning, before the sun was even fully out, someone pounded on my door so hard I jumped. The banging was loud, desperate, almost panicked. I looked through the peephole and felt my stomach drop. It was Claire. Her hair was a tangled mess, her makeup smeared down her cheeks, and she was still wearing the same gold dress from last night, now wrinkled and stained. She looked like she hadn't slept at all. Emily, open the door! She yelled, hitting the door again. You have to talk to me, please. I didn't move. I wasn't letting her drag me into another scene. She kept yelling through the door, her voice cracking as she tried to explain herself. I didn't mean it. I wasn't thinking. I was stressed, I was drunk, I panicked. Then her voice broke completely and she sobbed, Please, I need you. But she didn't need me. She needed money. She needed someone to clean up the disaster she created. She needed someone to fix her life the way I had fixed things for her since we were kids. I stayed silent, leaning against the wall, listening as she cried harder, sliding down to sit on the floor outside my door. You're my sister, she sobbed. You're supposed to help me. But after what she did, humiliating me, lying about Daniel, forging a will, trying to take my house, there was nothing left for me to give her. After 20 more minutes of begging, screaming, and crying, she finally left. The building went quiet again, and for a few hours, I thought maybe the worst part was finally over. I was wrong. Later that afternoon, my phone lit up with a text, not from Claire, but from her boyfriend, Mark. The message began with, Emily, I'm sorry for everything, you should know the truth. I sat down slowly as I read the rest. He told me Claire had cheated on him multiple times. She didn't know who Jacob's father was. She had panicked and used Neil's name because he was gone and couldn't defend himself. Everything suddenly made sense. Her desperation, her fake will, her dramatic announcement, her obsession with my house. She wasn't just lying to hurt me, she was drowning in her own mistakes and using my grief as her life raft. Mark explained that he found messages between Claire and 2 different men, Kyle and Devon. She had told each of them she was pregnant. She didn't know who the father was but hoped to fix everything using my money. He ended the message with, "I'm taking Jacob and leaving. I'm done with her." My chest tightened at the thought of little Jacob caught in the middle of all this. That baby deserved honesty and love, not parents fighting and lying to each other. I wiped my eyes and took a deep breath. The truth was ugly and heartbreaking, but it was clear Claire didn't accuse Daniel because she believed it. She accused him because she needed someone else to carry the blame for her choices. She used my husband's death as a hiding place for her shame, and that was the part I couldn't forgive. I didn't reply to Mark, because there was nothing left to say. I blocked him. I blocked Claire. I blocked every number connected to their chaos. I spent the rest of the day quietly cleaning the kitchen, cooking a small breakfast, and sitting alone at my table while the house finally felt calm in a way it hadn't felt since the funeral. For the first time in weeks, the silence wasn't heavy. It was healing, but peace never lasts long when someone like Claire is involved. By sundown, she did something even worse than the birthday party stunt, something that would drag the whole situation into a place I never wanted it to go. For almost a week after the party, everything became strangely quiet. There were no calls, no texts, no crying outside my door. Nothing from Claire at all. Part of me hoped she had finally realized what she had done and decided to disappear for a while. But people like Claire don't disappear. They wait for the perfect moment to explode again. One cold morning while I was drinking coffee by the kitchen window, a thick envelope slid under my front door. When I picked it up and saw a law firm logo printed on the front, my stomach tightened. I opened it quickly and found a formal letter inside stating that Claire had filed a legal claim demanding 50% of my home, claiming she was entitled to it through Daniel's secret will. For a second, I just sat on the couch staring at the letter, laughing softly in disbelief. Not because it was funny, but because the idea was so ridiculous, so bold, so completely in line with her chaos, that I didn't even know how else to react. She actually did it. She actually tried to steal my house legally using a fake will she printed from a shady website with my husband's name spelled wrong. She wasn't just desperate, she was reckless. But then something clicked in my mind. This wasn't a problem anymore. This was an opportunity, because now everything she had done, everything she had faked, everything she had lied about, would be written down in official records. She wanted a legal fight? Fine. I would end this with truth, not anger. I responded to the law firm calmly and professionally. I sent Daniel's official medical records proving he couldn't have children. I attached the real will, the one properly signed and certified by a real lawyer. I attached the fake will Claire had shown at the party, with perfect evidence of forgery. The misspelled name, the fake stamp, the non-existent law firm, and even the signature that was copied and pasted. I also included the videos people recorded at the party when Claire made her dramatic announcement, claiming Daniel fathered her son. 3 different parents sent me written statements confirming everything. And finally, I sent screenshots of the messages Mark had sent me, proving she didn't know who Jacob's father was, and that she planned to use my inheritance to fix everything. It took me maybe 20 minutes to gather the evidence, because the truth was already on my side. 2 days later, the law firm called me. The lawyer apologized for the situation and informed me that Claire's claim was completely invalid and, even more serious, that they had reported her to authorities for submitting forged legal documents. Hearing that didn't make me feel happy. It made me feel something deeper: justice, real justice. The lawyer warned me that Claire might face charges, fines, and even court hearings because what she did wasn't a small mistake. It was a crime. He advised me to avoid any contact with her, and I agreed immediately, but Claire wasn't finished destroying herself. Later that week, a mutual friend texted me saying Claire had been officially served and was under investigation. Another message came saying Mark had filed for full custody of Jacob and had shown investigators the video from the birthday party, saying the forged will proved she wasn't stable. Then another message came: Claire was fired from her job. Her boss said she caused unnecessary drama and made the workplace uncomfortable. More messages followed. Friends distancing themselves, neighbors avoiding her, even family members choosing not to speak to her. Everything was falling apart around her, not because of me, but because of her own actions. Every choice she made was catching up to her. It was like watching a house collapse brick by brick, not from outside damage, but from the rotten foundation inside. She built her world on lies, and now the entire thing was crashing down. And for the first time since Daniel died, I finally felt something calm inside me. Not joy, not relief, just cool. I at peace. The kind of peace that comes when you stop carrying someone else's chaos. She tried to destroy me to save herself, but instead, she destroyed her own life. My world, slowly, was beginning to rebuild itself. But the story didn't end there, because Claire still had one more unexpected move left, one final confrontation that would change everything again. Months passed slowly, and for the first time since Daniel's funeral, my life felt calm again. The legal case against Claire continued somewhere in the background, but I didn't check updates anymore. I was tired of the drama, tired of the lies, tired of being dragged into storms that never belonged to me. My house felt different now. It felt like home again. I spent my days doing small things that brought comfort. I painted the guest room a warm color Daniel always liked. I watered his plants every morning, the same way he used to. I looked through old photos, letting myself smile instead of cry. The silence in the house didn't feel heavy like before, it felt peaceful. Grief still lived with me, but it wasn't an enemy anymore. It was something soft, something that reminded me of love, not pain. One quiet afternoon, when the sun was setting and the house was glowing in orange light, I heard a soft knock at the front door. Not loud, not angry, not demanding, just a gentle tap, like someone unsure of their place. I opened the door slowly, and my breath caught. It was Claire. But she didn't look anything like the sister I knew. Her makeup was gone, her face was pale, and her eyes were swollen from crying. She looked smaller, thinner, almost fragile. She held a folded paper in her shaking hands, and when she finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. "Emily, I'm not here to fight. I'm here to apologize." I didn't say anything. I just waited. She took a shaky breath, and tears started pooling in her eyes. "You were right about everything," she said. "I messed up. I lied. I hurt you. I hurt Jacob. I hurt myself. And I've lost everything." Her voice cracked on the last word, and she wiped her tears with her sleeve. She told me Mark had taken full custody of Jacob. She only got supervised visits now. She told me she lost her job after the investigation. Even our parents didn't want to talk to her. She said she had no friends left. The lawyer warned her that if she ever tried anything like that again, she could face real charges. She looked broken in a way I had never seen. "I know you don't owe me forgiveness," she whispered. "I know you don't want me in your life, but I needed to say I'm sorry." Her words floated in the cool air between us. I looked at her, really looked at her. This was the same woman who humiliated me in front of a whole room, who forged a will, who lied about my husband, who tried to steal my home while I was drowning in grief. But this woman standing at my door wasn't that version of her. This was someone crushed under the weight of her own actions. Finally I spoke. "Claire, I accept your apology, but that doesn't mean things go back to how they were." She nodded quickly like she already knew that. "I understand," she said quietly. "I'm not asking for that. I just needed you to know that I'm taking responsibility now." She held out the folded paper with shaking fingers. "This is the official withdrawal of my claim to your house. It's signed, stamped, and filed." I took it gently. I didn't say thank you. I didn't smile. I just nodded. For the first time since Daniel died, something inside my chest felt warm, a small, quiet feeling of closure. Claire stepped back from the door. "Goodbye, Emily," she whispered. She turned and walked down the pathway Owly, almost like she was floating. She looked lighter, like she had finally let go of something heavy. I didn't call after her. I didn't invite her inside. I didn't promise to see her soon. Some doors close quietly, and it's better to let them stay closed. When I went back inside, I placed the document next to Daniel's real will, the one he signed with love and honesty. I sat on the porch for a long time watching the sunset paint the sky gold and pink. The breeze made the wind chimes ring softly, and I felt Daniel's presence in that gentle sound. I had survived everything. I had healed. I had protected what mattered most. Even though he was gone, Daniel still protected me from lies that could have destroyed me. I wrapped a blanket around myself, sipped warm tea, and felt peace settle into my bones. This was my life now. Quiet, steady, honest. No drama, no manipulation, no lies. Just me, rebuilding a future on truth. Because one lesson stayed with me. When you build your life on truth, no one can take it from you. But when you build your life on lies, everything eventually falls apart.